Okay, so as promised, we're going to talk about some of the abusive criminal psychopaths who are consistently sent to stalk, intimidate, and harass me as I simply travel to my job from Gatineau to Ottawa. So these criminal psychopaths within the Ottawa Special Constables have been continually showing up to harass, intimidate, and stalk me for over 2.5 years. And when we look into some of these people, their backgrounds and whatnot, we shouldn't be surprised at all to see that some of them have military backgrounds. Because unfortunately, our Canadian military, like so many other organizations within the country, has been fully infiltrated by criminals, psychopaths, and general all-around just devious criminal people with no conscience, who are willing to do anything they're told as long as it benefits them personally. And this is how the Canadian communitarian system manipulates these people into doing their bidding. So the police, the fire department, people within the military, and people like this guy here, Josh Gibault, who is an Ottawa Special Constable, who has also been a part of the continued criminal harassment against me for 2.5 years. This is his LinkedIn here. So we can see he has Canadian Armed Forces here. And again, we see the connections between this type of behavior, criminal harassment and stalking, and the organizations that these people are part of. So the military, the police, the fire department, all of these organizations are fully involved in CSIS criminal harassment campaigns in which they target law-abiding citizens who have committed no crime and unjustifiably put them on watch lists, trying to create justification to literally ruin the lives of these people. And these activities are exactly the same as those of the Stasi in East Germany, except now, because of the technology with everyone having phones, it is much more sophisticated. And so Josh Gibeault is a criminal stalker, an abusive psychopath who has been partaking in these activities against me now for 2.5 years. You can see the big grin on his face here. He always seems to be like cackling and giggling anytime you see pictures of this guy. And of course, he was in a couple of my videos. You can see where he had as soon as I arrived at the station, he and 4 other constables had set up a street theater skit, which is pretty much all they do. They set up fake acting skits, and they sit in their cars staring at their phones, getting paid to do nothing. Those are the things they do when they're not stalking and harassing law-abiding Canadian citizens. So everything you're going to see online, mostly when you do a search for these people, is going to be glowing, and it's going to make them seem like they're such wonderful people. In fact, the opposite is the case. These are abusive criminal psychopaths with no conscience. They're sick people. They would even do these activities to women and children as well. And they do. They do. If you don't believe that, all you have to do is look into situations where police officers, firefighters, and others like this guy, Josh Gibeault, will literally target some of their spouse if there's a breakup. They'll use their influence as Freemasons within the police and within these special constables and firefighters and others, and they'll use that influence. They can have anyone basically put on a watch list to be harassed and criminally stalked for the rest of their life, and they will receive no assistance, obviously, from the police because the police are part of these activities. So it's basically lawlessness. And your rights are erased as a human being. You don't have any recourse because if you go to a lawyer about these things, the lawyer will immediately be contacted by a representative of CSIS who will tell them not to assist you. And the lawyer will pretend that the things aren't going on and they won't assist. Or if they do assist, first of all, you have to have a lot of money to be able to get a lawyer to take legal action against these abusive criminal psychopaths. So most of the people who they're targeting have been driven into situations where they don't make a lot of money. Now, I can show clear evidence right now that I'm being employment blacklisted, and I have a job right now, but it's just barely above minimum wage. And anytime I send out applications to get a second job, I'm declined for no valid reason, even though I have very good qualifications within the industry that I work in. So none of that was happening before I had come to the realization that I had been put on one of these watch lists to be criminally harassed and stalked by psychopaths like Josh Gibeault and his companions within the Ottawa Special Constables, his co-workers. So don't be fooled by these people when they try to put up this front that they're decent human beings. They are sick, deranged psychopaths who would literally target their own family members if one of their family members pissed them off. Or they have the ability to do that, and it's done through Freemasonry, because all of these professions, these public service professions, the vast majority of the males are Freemasons, and they're encouraged to join Masonic lodges. So they have this fraternal brotherhood where they can literally break laws, lie and have any person who's done them no wrong put on a watch list to be criminally harassed and stalked for the rest of the person's life. They will literally target their own family members, and they have no problem even with targeting children. That's how sick these people are. And, a lot of what goes on in these situations is these people are a part of a system, the Canadian communitarian system, and a lot of them are from families where this type of thing goes back generations. So they've been essentially government snitches, employees of the state, who would rat out their neighbors for anything that they could use to get leverage within the system, because all they care about is themselves. They're sick people. They can put on a front that some of them have empathy, but they don't have empathy at all, because no one who has empathy would partake in these abuse and harassment campaigns like the type of thing that they've subjected me to for the past 2.5 years. So this is one of these sick, deranged psychopaths and Freemasons, Josh Gibeault. And again, he is, if you look into it, you don't have to do much digging to find. He's from a family of paramedics and firefighters also in his family. So, and I'm not doing much research. He put that out there himself. You can find this online. I think that's his brother there, a volunteer firefighter. So here he is again here, Gibeault here. He's got the usual, occult tattoos all over his arms, probably some Kabbalah-related tattoos there. I don't see him wearing that red string that a lot of them wear, which essentially condones child abuse, because that's what the Kabbalah is. It condones child abuse and changing the gender of children. So it's not surprising that these people within these families of the communitarian system in Canada, they get rewarded and they get a lot more perks than the average citizen does. And they also get to break the laws. They're above the laws. They can harass and abuse people in a way that where there's no repercussions. So here you see Gibeault here. And I believe that's Jackie, the other constable. She's been involved in the stalking and harassment as well, although I haven't seen her as much recently. So, yeah, this is one of the criminal psychopaths here, Josh Gibeault. You can find a little bit of information on him online. This is just stuff that he has out there, right? So you don't really even have to look too far, but that's his LinkedIn there. He's a criminal abuser, a psychopath, a compulsive liar, and he harasses and stalks law-abiding Canadian citizens who have done nothing wrong. I have absolutely no criminal record, completely blemishless in that regard. I don't associate with anyone who any type of criminal people. I just live a normal life, and I want to go to my job each day without being harassed by criminal psychopaths like this guy, but I can't do it. I can't do it because criminal Freemasons and psychopaths like Josh Gibeault, Alex Gibault, another one, we've gone into some information about that creep already. And then people like Frankenstein Freemason Flint, his superior, Gibault's superior, who also incidentally has a military background as well. People like that don't feel that I should be able just to travel to my job. They feel that I should be criminally harassed just for using public transit. And it's all done. I believe what it goes back to with my situation is retaliation against a family member. I don't know how far back it goes, but I can say that I'm fairly sure that it's led to the deaths of 2 people who are very close to me on one side of the family, on my mom's side. And during those times, CSIS wasn't as actively involved in this, but they still had a system where they would control the citizens and they could have citizens criminally harass and stalk these people, isolate them, completely isolate them, send in people to spread slander about them. They use slander and harassment, slander campaigns to justify doing these things. So they'll create dossiers of lies, and they will go around and enlist people and say, you have a dangerous person living in your area. This person needs to be watched. Are you going to help us with that? If they decline to help, sometimes the people will be encouraged to move from the area. That's the type of pull that these people have. And it's these criminal psychopath Freemasons within law enforcement, within the police, and I think sometimes in the RCMP, who are sent to spread these lies and slander campaigns to justify the abuse and criminal harassment of law-abiding Canadian citizens, also isolating them from any support system, and employment blacklisting them, subjecting them to mobbing at their jobs. So we're also going to talk about some of the people within CSIS, or at least one person within CSIS, who is clearly active in these activities. Now you must understand that the media lies about all of this stuff because there's coordination between the media, Canadian media, and these criminal psychopaths from these families. So like Josh Gibeault here, you'll see that there's even articles written about him, glowingly showing how he proposed to his girlfriend, and it says firefighter proposes to girlfriend. Would the average citizen have anything like that in the media? Of course not. Why is that? Why is he so important that the media would put something like that out? Well, because he's a Freemason and he's a part of that system. And so they treat the people who are part of that system, they have to treat those people well and give them added perks and benefits to motivate them to do these sick things, to take part in these abuse and criminal harassment activities. So that's one of these criminal psychopaths here. Don't be fooled by any of the front that he puts on, that he's a decent human being. Psychopaths can put on a front and make you believe that they are decent human beings. We'll get on to we'll talk about some of the other criminal stalking constables in future videos as well. But that's Josh Gibeault there, the criminal psychopath and stalker. And another thing that they do in reference to these criminal harassment campaigns that are similar to what is described as Zersetzung, or decomposition, the same methods used by the Stasi in East Germany to harass truth speakers and dissidents. What they do also is, after the slander campaign is completed and they've gone to enlist neighbors with lies and falsehoods, they create fake dossiers to do this and say, okay, this person needs to be watched, and it's all done through deceit. The people who they are doing these two things to are almost all law-abiding citizens. So because of that, they have to create lies and slander campaigns to justify this harassment, to try and deceive people, or all the people around that person, into firstly isolating them and then taking part in abuse and harassment against them. So there's very few people who expose this type of thing in a credible way online because they've gone to great lengths to flood the internet with disinformation about these activities. And they've also used a lot of people who are a part of the Canadian communitarian system to pose online as people who are being subjected to these things. And then they'll pay them to act crazy, act in an unhinged manner. And they also exploit and use drug addicts to pose as people who are being targeted, but aren't really being targeted. And that's all part of the discrediting campaign that they flood the internet with. So if you go to YouTube and you do any searches for this subject matter, you're mostly going to come away with these people who they've put out to pose as people who are being harassed this way, but aren't really. So, and that's part of the discrediting campaign that they do online, because they know anyone has the ability to upload videos online. But so they have to flood it with this info, and most of what you see on YouTube as well, with police interactions in general, are staged to make the interactions to make the police seem like wonderful people, and making anyone who criticizes them about their gross corruption seem unhinged or unstable, right? So they've gone to great lengths to discredit people online, again, using deceit, nothing but deceit, lies and slander, and paying people who are essentially community-based agents, the same people who they used to stalk and mob the people who are subjected to these things. They use those same people to pose online as people who are being harassed in this way, and then act crazy, do crazy things. They'll portray them as being violent, etc. The vast majority of the people who they're targeting this way are not violent at all. So it's all based on lies and deceit, and these are the people who partake in these things. And everything they do is based around deceit, lying, manipulating other people into harassing their fellow citizens. It's really disgraceful, and it's these types of activities are exactly what you would see in countries where full-blown communism is in effect. So another thing too is they will, after the slander campaign is done, they also ensure that the person is literally monitored within their own home. I'm not sure exactly what the techniques are that they use to do that, but I know for sure, I've shown evidence for the last 3 years that they couldn't coordinate these things in such a precise way if I wasn't actually being monitored within the home. So again, what I've heard they do, now this is just speculation, I'm not saying I know this to be true, but it seems logical. I think it's reasonable speculation to say that after they've enlisted these people to take part in the harassment, the people, the neighbors who live around the person, they will then create online groups which comes into the whole situation with monitoring the person in their home. And they create, so they'll have people who are already government snitches, you may call them, for lack of better terms, government snitches in the neighborhood. Those people also, sometimes police officers who live in the neighborhood or firefighters, people who are part of the system, will go and try and get these other neighbors on board by slandering the person, and then they'll be monitored in their own home, and literally they'll have online groups that are dedicated to mobbing and harassing this person, and even setting up situations where as soon as they step outside, you know, they're having these neighbors surround them and mob them. Neighbors pulling out at the exact time when you arrive or when you leave, same time exit entry routines. Wherever I move, these same things have been going on for around 3 years now, a little over 3 years now, since I woke up to this, what it really was. And it's important to note that most of the people who are really going through this are too intimidated, first of all, to document the activities and to put them out there, because these people up the abuse and harassment if you do expose it, because they know there's very few people out there who are exposing this in a credible way. And so they continually up the abuse if you do expose it, but realistically you have no other option, because they're going to continue to harass you either way if you are being subjected to one of these harassment campaigns. But again, literally, as hard as it is to believe, it's quite clear that they are monitoring people in their own homes. And I don't know how it works because I'm not a part of that system, but a lot of the people who they use, I believe they may even have knowledge that they themselves are being monitored in their own homes. And they've agreed to that because the state often puts these people up for free. They give them free accommodations, free condos. So they bribe them by using material things in order to get them to partake in these activities. And so, yeah, most of what you find online about this subject matter is disinformation. So it's important to understand that these things are really happening to real people. If someone approaches you with something like this and says, you know, we need to watch this person, etc., you need to really understand that there's a lot of deceit going on. And it's quite possible that they are lying about this. And the first question you need to ask is, if that person's a criminal, why aren't the police dealing with them? If they haven't committed a crime and they haven't done anything wrong, then there's no justification for mobbing them and harassing them, right? So a sensible person would respond to that and say, okay, well, if they're a criminal or whatever, why haven't the police just dealt with them? But people, unfortunately, are so in love with materialism, and they want to be a part of these groups. It makes them feel accepted. You know, it's just basic psychology, mob psychology that they use to enlist people to do these things. And so that is how it works.